I was in college and I had to pick a class, right? I had to pick a psychology course to get through for my sophomore year. And everyone said, don't choose this teacher. Do not choose this teacher, right? This teacher's hard. Her tests are hard. You're going to struggle. You do not want that teacher. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm not going to pick that teacher, right? And this is something you have to remember. Sometimes the hardest road is the best road. You want to take that road, right? But your mind will tell you not to take it. Your mind will convince you why it's better to take the safer road, the easier road, right? And you'll justify it if you don't catch it. I need you to catch it. Every time you're in a situation where it's, hey, road A is easy, road B is hard, I want you to take road B. So I'm sitting there with my social worker and we're trying to figure out where I'm gonna take my next class, right? And everyone's telling me to avoid this specific teacher. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take that class, right? The old Jordan, right, used to run from that. The old Jordan used to hide from the hard moments, the scary moments, the moments where he didn't think he could make it. That was the old Jordan. The old Jordan did that. But this is the new Jordan now. And sometimes the new you is under that hard road, that pavement, right, that you have to stomp on, that you have to walk through. That's where the new you is there. And I've been down a couple hard roads at this point, and I knew that. But my mind was like, no, Jordan, don't do it. Take the easier one. But then I had to say, you know what? No, I'm taking the hard one. And your life is behind everything that's hard. Who you want to be is behind everything that's hard. So I said, you know what? I'm taking it. And my social worker didn't even think. She said, okay, you got this, you got this. Because she always built me up. She was continuously building me up. And when she used to build me up, I would go back and build myself up, because you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You got to be your biggest fighter. Yes, you got your mom. Yes, you got your teachers. You got your social workers. But if you don't believe it, right, if you don't believe it when you're by yourself, right, you're not going to be able to push through when you get nervous and you're alone and you think you can't do it. You have to believe it when you're alone. You have to believe what everyone's telling you, but when you look in the mirror, you have to believe it. So I need you to do that. I need you to look in the mirror and give yourself that gift of self-belief. It's a gift, and you can give it to yourself at any moment. And when you give it to yourself, you start to see yourself a lot different, and you start to overcome things you never thought you could do. And that gift just keeps getting better, and it keeps getting better. And there's a new you under that, and there's another new you, and there's always a new you, and you just completely transform every time you take that hard road. That's your gift. So that's what I did. I took that test. I took that class, right? And when I signed up for that class, I said, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready for this, right? I don't care what goes down. I don't care if I can't read the words. I'm going to rewrite them. If I don't understand the vocab, I'm going to rewrite the glossary. I'm going to do this. So it was the first night before class, and I said to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to my room, and I'm going to rewrite the first 4 chapters on a notebook. So I went up to my dorm room, I put my music in, and I rewrote the first 4 chapters of this psychology book. It was a neuropsychology class. And I rewrote the chapters, and I rewrote the chapters, and I rewrote the chapters. I just kept doing it, right? And I did it. And all night long I kept doing it. At the end of the chapters, there was questions, and I would answer the questions, right? And I'd make note cards for all the chapters. The next morning I woke up, it was my first class in the morning. I sat in the front. I used to always sit in the back. This time I sat in the front. Make sure anything that's coming your way, if you're worried about something, you're scared, right? Sit in the front. Get hit first with it, right? You want to take that first hit, because then you know how hard you got to hit back. So I said, give me the first hit. I want the first hit. I'm sitting in the front. Let's see how hard this class really is. I hope it's hard, right? You want it to be hard. I want it to be hard. I sat in the front. And she started to speak, right? She started to talk about her notes, and I'm writing the notes, right? I can't read my handwriting, so I typed everything. Sometimes if you can't use a pen and paper, make sure you type. It's clearer. You will understand it the same way. So that's what I used to do. I used to type, right? And I'm sitting in class. She's talking. She's bringing up her notes, and I'm rewriting. I'm ready for anything, right? You got to be ready for it. I'm sitting there. And I'm ready. And she asked the class a question. Something about the brain, right? I don't remember the question. I remember the answer, right? But I don't remember the question. And the answer was the 2 bands that connect the 2 hemispheres, right? That was the answer. She wanted to know what the name of that, what that name was, right? The name that connects the bands that connect the 2 hemispheres, right, of the brain. And she's asking the question, and I'm looking around, nobody's answering. And I said, I know this answer, right? I know this answer. but I wasn't 100% sure. And sometimes you won't be 100% sure of the answer, but I was 100% sure that I put the work in to know that answer. I knew that, right? I knew that enough that I was going to raise my hand and answer this question. So she asked it again. I raised my hand like this. I said, I know this answer. I got this. She looks at me and she says, yes. And I answer the question. And she looks at me and she says, sometimes when you answer a question like a genius, right, just stop talking. And she smiled at me and winked. And I said, she just called me a genius? I'm like, she just called me a genius, right? My whole life, I've never been called a genius. This professor just called me a genius, right? So I sat there and I was pumped, right? And I was like, this is just the beginning, guys. That is just the beginning. This is just one moment that I proved to myself that I can do this. And it's a moment like that, right? You just need a moment. You're one moment like that to proving to yourself that you can do this, right? But you got to put the work in. The validation was the work. It wasn't the question I answered. It was the work I put in to have the courage to raise my hand and answer that question. Because my work ethic was the validation. Put the work in. Take your life serious. Take your self-belief serious. Give yourself that gift of self-belief and put the work in behind it. I promise you, there's nothing you can't do. I walked out of that classroom, and when I walked out, a girl walked up to me and she said, so you're one of those smart kids. And I looked at her and I just said, you have no idea. And I just kept walking. And I walked back to my dorm and I thought to myself, my whole life I wanted to run from who I was. But now I run into who I am. When things get hard, I run into it. When things get hard, guys, you have to run into it. Because when you run into it, you figure out who you are. You figure out what you're made of. You start taking your life serious and you start uncovering your gifts. But you gotta run into it. Run into the hard stuff. It makes you who you are.